Sean here with BaseMint Comics. It's August 26th, the last new comic book Wednesday of August 2026 that we're ever going to get. Yeah, pretty nice day. We're winding. It's weird. Weather's changed to fall-esque a little bit, and this always sort of happens at this time of year where I love the fall. And I get lulled into this false and then I know that we're gonna get hammered with another 100-degree stretch or whatever after this, and it does a weird thing to my brain where it switches me into I want to wear some sweaters and eat spiced donuts and read Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange Triumph and Torment, but whatever, I'm rambling. Hank and I are going to hit the trail. We're going to go up to our comic book shop, pick up this week's books, then I'm going to come back, talk about what I loved from last week, and all sorts of other stuff. So let's hit the trails.
Flies into the night. It's my heart that views this time cuts deadlines deep into my mind. In my thoughts full of their lies. But all I hear is their voices in my head, screaming better left for dead. But they can't stop the beating of my heart. All I need is a spark to start this fire. All I need is a spark to start this fire. All I need is a spark to start this fire. Let's turn it up and go till I grow immune to it, to it, to it, to it. It's my heart that fuels this fire. So I keep taking their functions, but I still hear them. Their voices in my head, screaming better left for dead. But they can't stop the beating of my heart. All I need is a spark to start this fire. All I need is a spark to start this fire. All I need is a spark to start this fire. Let's turn it up and go. There are voices in my head, screaming better left for dead. But they can't stop the beating of my heart. The beating of my heart. They can't stop the beating of my heart. All I need is a spark to start this fire. All I need is a spark to start this fire. All I need is a spark to start this fire. Let's turn it up and go. But my beating over this high tonight. Yeah. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on.
All right, so we are back from the ride. The tea is made in the I Have Issues cup, and 112 episodes in, you are incredibly aware that I have issues. Stuff that I liked from last week. I've really been enjoying Avengers Armageddon. I'm excited for what's coming next, and it's every tease, cover reveal, the team is giving off Bendis New Avengers vibe. And that, like, am I slightly apprehensive about that? I'm in the camp that enjoyed Bendis's Avengers. I did. I actually think for me personally, the build-up towards Secret Invasion was one of the absolute, like, one of my favorite. Like, I look back at that time period in comics very favorably. It's not the highs of my youth. It is not me going back to the classics and appreciating them with adult eyes and an understanding of the medium. But during that time period, I loved the tightness of the continuity. It really felt like every book in the Marvel Universe mattered to the other books, which I'm sure probably drove a lot of people crazy. But I absolutely love that, mostly because I'm solely dipping my toes into one universe my entire life. So I'm like, it's like tickling a little bit of a nostalgia bone for me, but sometimes I just want Busiek and Perez's Avengers back, and this ain't it. So I'm appreciating it for what it is, but I know that that's sort of the dragon that I'll be chasing. But this has been a blast. It's got Wolverine on the cover saying Avengers Assemble, and it's been good. And it's not what I thought it was going to be, because I thought it was going to be them versus Thunderbolt Ross, and it's not that at all. So that's been interesting. That, like, I like it when things like that happen, where, like, I've been in the game for long enough to be able to, like, see a solicitation or something and be like, I can probably piece together how this is going to go, which creates a lot of cynicism online, which sucks. So then when I get that curve, I really appreciate it. So there's that. Bishop, I've said it for the past 2 issues. Time travel fun. Bring the sister back, who I loved. I've thoroughly been enjoying it. Uncanny X-Men. This has been, it is, I really like the kids. And this, like, there's this character that's sort of introduced. And you're dealing with Monet St. Croix, M from Generation X, who, was a big part of my youth growing up in the comics. It's nice seeing some of those characters, like, advance. One of my favorite, I've talked about it ad nauseum, but one of my favorite issues of X-Force is X-Force 44. And that is the issue where Cannonball graduates from New Mutants X-Force and becomes an X-Men. So some of those characters that I grew up with, I thoroughly enjoy seeing them, like, get older, There's kind of this story where they where that group in Louisiana runs into a mutant kid here, and his story is incredibly tragic. And I will say that these types of stories definitely affected me when I was a kid. Certainly it's what I think every single person, I would imagine, that is watching this when they were of a certain age definitely felt alienated amongst their peers, even if you technically, like, looking back, might not have been. I think that's a pretty standard feeling when you're growing up, kind of shaking that thing out. It's one of the things that's, like, going to be interesting as a dad, like, navigating growing pains that you went through, and having to kind of, like, take a back seat as someone that you love more than anything is going to have to go through some of those same trials and tribulations is kind of an interesting thing. So I think some of this stuff where it affected me when I was younger, now these, like, kid tragic stories hit in a different way, but still beautifully. If you're, if you're trying to understand what I mean, go listen to the Ben Folds song Still Fighting It, and know that is a song that meant jack shit to me before I was a dad, but now will absolutely bring me to my knees. All right. Punisher versus Spider-Man. When issue number 1 came out, I almost left it on the stands because I thought it was some bullshit movie synergy thing, which I don't like. And man, am I glad that I decided to pick this up, because it is absolutely one of my favorite books right now. Dan Abnett is killing it. The art is great. And it is set in the time period around Amazing Spider-Man 129. And it's been a blast, and I love it. There were a lot of Spider-Man books that came out sort of at once, and I was like, eesh. And it's funny because the one that I thought I was going to really like, which was written by Hickman, I'm just like, no, that one, I might just not even finish that one. Spider-Man and Hulk, Fire and Brimstone. This was okay. I wanted it to be better. I think a little bit of it, like, this is probably a book that I should read again. That tends to happen as I get older. I saw online, like, there's this gag here where a bunch of the man characters, you know, Stilt Man and Cobalt Man and Mole Man, and you know, they've decided to dub themselves the Manosphere. And I saw some headlines float by, which always sort of cracks me up, because it's like, I'll never forget, like, when Miles Morales was first introduced, not to get like too, there was a lot of controversy surrounding that. And I remember one of my older brothers called me and he was like, "What do you think about this?" And I was just like, it's a Spider-Man. Like, I don't get and like the same thing happened during Secret Empire when Cap was Hydra Cap. He was all I saw him, you know. you can get the vibe of what one of my older brothers unfortunately might be like. And I just remember he was mad about it, and I was like, you have never picked up a comic book in your entire life. And like, I can tell you just by what's been going on in the rest of the Marvel universe that I guarantee you this is some cosmic cube shenanigans, and it's just a fun summer event. And I wasn't picking up Captain America at the time that came out. I got it about a year later. I've talked about this where I got like real steamed when Marvel higher-ups put the X-Men on the back burner because they didn't own the movie rights. And so my boycott was like, fuck it, I'm not going to buy the rest. I'm not going to buy any comic. Like, I was one of those guys. It's just like, I'm done with the rest. I'm getting my X-Men books. Screw everybody. And so I wound up being able to buy that run on the cheap. And at that time, Ashley's folks, Mrs. Basement, my in-laws we'd go down to Disney or whatever in Florida, you know, and have a little family vacation. And every time we would do that, like, they're all beach people. I'm a woods man, mostly because I'm pale and Irish, and I burn to a crisp on the beach. So I would like bike 50 miles while they were all like tanning or whatever, and then come back. And to hang out on the beach with them, I'd be like the guy that was in the full sleeve shirt, like under a tent, reading my comics. It's where I first read Walt Simonson's run of Fantastic Four. That was great. And Jason Aaron's Thor run, where Jane, that was one of those vacations. Mutant X was on a trip. And the last one was the summer after Hydra Cap came out, and I was like, let me see what all the fuss is about. Let me see what the internet lost their minds over for no good reason. And you know what? It was the Cosmic Cube. What a bunch of nerds. Anyways, so I laughed when I saw that, because I knew, like, the second I read this issue, I was like, well, I know what's going to be a headline. I know what phone call I'm going to get from my brother tomorrow. Can you believe? Fucking idiot. All right. That is needless to say that I should read this again. I did enjoy it. But I think I got to give it another read. There's a thing, like, I don't like, you know, I tend to read late now, on account of the kid. And sometimes if it's like the last book that I read, this is how my wife knows that it's time for me to just call it, because I'll be doing one of these. And when that happens 3 times, she's like, try again tomorrow, buddy. So this one might have to get shuffled onto the top of this week's pile. Spider-Man Brand New Day. This was, again, another one of those, like, why are we doing this? Why are we going back to this time period? And I had to eat it because I was like, this is a ton of fun. Like, didn't really enjoy the first issue, but by the second and the third, I was all in. At first, I was probably just like, this is too much extra Spider-Man. Stop it with the miniseries. But this is a time period that I enjoyed in Spider-Man. Art's good. I like Dan Slott's Spider-Man. So it was a lot of fun. And that's what I like. I like fun comics. And what I don't like jumping to conclusions on the internet. Mortal Thor number 800. This was a blast. I like Pasquale Ferry drawing this. This is this incredible, like, oh man, Al Ewing is sort of like, this is a book that's not getting enough, I think, you know. I see the, if you threw absolute Mortal Thor on this, you'd all be like, this book kicks ass. That's all I'm saying. If it's absolute. Yeah. Thor Through Time. It's just good stuff. And it sort of ends, like, I believe from here we're hitting kind of a point where we're finally going to get back to, which I, when it happened, when like the end kind of hinted like, hey, the next arc is going to be like Sigurd Jarlson kind of reclaiming Thor, I was a little bit like, I've really been enjoying this run, and 14 issues of this just like hasn't been enough for me. I've really enjoyed it. This I didn't. I got this because I read King in Black, because I like King in Black was like a like, you know, I like Stegman as a person sometimes and his art. So there's a very long, like, where it's cool. And so I bought in on that, but I didn't read the Venom run, and so I didn't really get it. But this, it was hella. And so I was like, oh, cool. I've been reading Thor, so this will be a little bit more Asgardian, baby. And it just sort of isn't. This Defenders of Light and Dark, and all the tie-ins it's weird. Like, why have the tie-ins been so much better and have more hella in it than the actual, like, Queen in Black book? It's weird. And I don't really, like, that time period where, like, my knowledge of Spider-Man, it's like a black hole during that symbiote phase where they were, like, all kicking off, you know, not just like, oh, hey, there's Venom, you know, but I mean, when we got into, like, Toxin and Shriek, and, like, my Spider-Man, not, like, it gone. Like, I just tuned it out. And my knowledge consists solely of, like, the cartoon at that time period and, like, commercials for the video game Maximum Carnage. But as far as reading the book at that time, no. My, like, allowance money bought me X books, and I could not get 17 Spider-Man titles because I was also getting 17 X-Men. Anything with an X in it. If it had been X Spider-Man, I would have bought it. What a time to be alive. This has been fun. I've been enjoying it. Like, Stephanie Phillips has been writing a really good Daredevil. Lee Garbett has been drawing a really good Daredevil. Yeah. I'm just happy to have it back. I just did not like the run before this. And this has been enjoyable. It hasn't been like, there's like a new villain, you know, Omen or whatever, you know, plucking out people's eyes and stuff like that. And that's all well and good. I like it when they introduce new characters to the Rogues Gallery. But I'm also kind of looking forward to a classic Daredevil maybe showing up and seeing how Stephanie Phillips handles that. Captain Marvel Dark Past has been a joy of a miniseries for me. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Carol discovering something about her past and some relatives, and then this ended with a really great rogue moment. I don't know if it necessarily needed to be touched on, because I think that has been water under the bridge for some time, but this certainly, if that isn't the case, closed it for sure. Last but not least, Inglorious X-Force has been time travel cable shenanigans and reintroducing a few long lost X-Force characters like Richter and Shatterstar back into the Marvel universe, and even at times kind of like this is dumb, but just understand, like, I'm such an X-Men guy that, like, at one point Cable travels back in time and sort of looks like this, which harkens back to, like, the very first Cable miniseries from the 90s, which was like a two-parter, and he had this weird goatee, and it was all set in the future, and I enjoyed it. And so, like, they got me again. Like, I'm a sucker for that. They just hit me with that nostalgia button, and I'm like, wee, this was a good time. And then, like, days later, I'm like, I don't really remember what happened in that issue. And then I realized that, like, oh, my heart does lie with all the past stuff, and I'm really just, like, chugging along here in the new stuff. And some of it's going to become classic stuff in the beginning, but a lot more of it's probably going to fall by the wayside. I've been doing this thing where I am, as we were putting the room back together, because of the floors, I kind of rearranged everything. I talked about it a while ago, where, like, everything is now in publication order. And one of the things that I did was mini-series, because at first they were all, like, you had to know, like, if you wanted to read Firestar #1, you needed to know that that came before Uncanny X-Men #168, and that issue 2, 3, and 4 came after Uncanny X-Men #170, story-wise, X-Men-wise. And that's great. It's cool. It's one of those things where when you bring a fellow nerd down here, they're just like, it's very high fidelity, if you know what I'm talking about. And that's great. And it was a perfect system when my brain was not fried from having a child. And so then what would happen is I'd be like, where's this Marvel .1 issue from 2008? And I couldn't find it. And I'd be like, so then I'd go and buy it, because, you know, I got eBay in my pocket now, and that's a disaster. So I started, like, there were occasional times where I would, like, buy an issue, and then, like, days later I'd be like, oh my god, it's filed in between Uncanny X-Men Volume 7, number 13 and 14. And so I had to knock that out. And so now what I did was I was, like, in some of the cubbies around here is miniseries in short boxes, and I've been doing them by decade, in publication order, which is its own beast. And I've decided that, like wall space is at a premium. You know, you come down here, look in the library, wall space is at a premium, so titles have to hit a certain, you know, threshold for them to get a wall spot. Like, if it's like a 12-issue series, it's probably just getting put in one of the boxes filed away in the time period that it came out. And this works great. And then you hit 2020, and it's like, everything's going in the box. Everything's going in the box. We'll get into that one day when I go over all my little organization thing and give you a walkthrough again. It's new, but it's not super new. I picked up the 5-issue Imperial Guardians miniseries. There is a channel that I watch. A fella named Grant Pacheco, I believe is how you say the last name. He has a channel on YouTube called Solo Promoter, which is about wrestling board games. And the only thing that I know about wrestling is this brief time period where I tried to convince my wife that we should enter the hall after we got married to the Junkyard Dogs theme Grab Them Cakes. And she was this close to going for it. But that's where my wrestling knowledge ends. But on Wednesdays, he goes to the comic book shop and he gets books. And one of the books that he got was this Imperial Guardians thing. And I read Imperial. I bought it, and it was Jonathan Hickman. And this is, you know, I was like, oh. And it was Shi'ar, and there was space stuff. And as I was deciding which titles to get after that event ended, I was kind of like, oh, I don't think I'm going to get any. And I saw this cover to Imperial Guardians #1. And I was like, there's nothing of interest to me. I believe Grant is I like Captain Marvel, and I believe Grant is a Darkhawk fan, which is why he wound up picking up the title. But he showed off issue #5, and in that, Death's Head is in there, which is a whole hilarious continuity nightmare. But in that, as he was flipping through it, there was an old ForceWorks character by the name of Century that I fucking loved, okay? Now, I love this thing because I had this toy as a kid that I played with like crazy. It's a cool cloth cape. He makes portals with this type of thing. And I fucking loved this toy. Enough that it is like, you know, like, well, I mean, pretty much everything's up in here. It's a little museum to my life. But yeah, this guy got played with. You can, you know, didn't want to mix him up with my best friend's action figure. So I saw him in #5, and I was like, I commented, and I was like, man, I gotta get this. And he was like, you don't. Which I appreciate. But then I noticed that we got some Shi'ar Imperial Guardsmen in the background of issue #3, and I was like, sure enough, I can find this online, all 5 issues on the cheap. And I lucked out because when my store had their celebration thing for 40 years, new issues were like a 40% off or something like that, like if they were newer back issues. And so I was able to find most of these there and read through this the other night. And I lament writing for the trade, but I also struggle a little bit. Like, the thing is like, I like reading my issues. I sort of have this thing where, like, I don't like having issues hold over to the next week. You know, I kind of like getting through them that first week. And it's weird because I've never been, I mean, obviously I do the channel now, but before then I was never a message board guy. I've talked about that. So I never felt like I needed it. It was mostly like, I got to get through these so someone doesn't spoil it for me. Some, you know, jerk off at the store or something like that. I don't know. But lately, like, this read really well, just sitting down, reading all 5 issues. So I'm like, some of this stuff, I don't know if I should just, like, file it away next to where I read down here and just wait a couple issues and then read it. I don't know. And I mean, I'm not talking the regular series, you know, like the series that have continued, the wall stuff. But when it comes to some mini-series, you know, I don't know if it'd be better to just, what do you think? There's a question I can ask the crowd. What do you think? Anyways, I just wanted to say, I like Grant's channel. He seems like a good dude. I mean, how could he not be? He was the puppeteer for the vegetable can in Wet Hot American Summer, which, fucking great movie, great series. Back in the day when me and Mrs. Basement had more time for extracurricular activities, if you follow what I'm saying. We laughed for hours at that movie and show. Yeah, so you should check his channel out. He's got a good handle on Wednesdays and new comics and doesn't nearly ramble as long as I do, which is nice because I'm sure that grates on people. I mean, Jesus, we're 25 minutes into this and I haven't even talked about what I picked up this week. Here we go. You ready? I don't know why. I know why, because I signed up to read it and they keep on sticking it in my box and I love my shop. Like, you know how I said I never went on message boards? There was a time period where I tried. And I had, I was This was years and years ago. And I was going through a difficult time with a comic book shop that I had been going to 21 years ago. And I wanted to like switch it up. They didn't have a discount at that store, and there were no back issues. It was like the Target of comic book stores in our area. And it was just on my way home from work, and that was when I worked like 12-hour shifts, and so I'd get out with like an hour to spare. So it was basically the comic book shop that I could stop on Wednesdays. And so eventually I put it to I was like, hey, like, would you switch comic book stores to go to one that had a discount? And I had gone to the one with the discount before when I was a kid. And so I just sort of threw that out there to the internet in a message board and was like, hey, and like the first comment was just somebody like, they were like, are you loyal to laundry detergent? And I was like, yeah, kind of. Like, I probably picked one and was like, yeah, this is my laundry detergent. But I just thought that was like, I was like, okay, all right, I guess. And then it seemed to be like a thread of people that were like, oh, I go to this store for this. And if they don't have my books, blah, 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 I go to this store. And I was just like, what? That was completely foreign to me because I am like a comic shop loyal. I don't even like going to other stores for back issues. I mean, I will. I've done it. But like there's certain stores in my area that I'm like, no, sir. I will not step foot in that establishment because of the owner or all number of things can get me to be like, that comic book shop is dead to me. This is all to say that I'm still getting this book because I signed up for it and my comic book shop keeps on ordering it for me. I read it and I'm like, as I'm reading it, it's good, but it falls into this category of I'm probably never going to read it again. And I think at the age that I'm at, I need to like, this sort of has to be a thing that gets like worked out where like I cut the stuff that I know I'm not ever going to read again. I know. You know what the thing is? This is like ridiculously dumb, fun comics. And it's like, yeah, that's all it is. And so it's like occasionally, but these two I should probably, like if I were to cut anything, it's going to be these two first. It is what it is, man. Black Cat, I signed on to this series because I thoroughly enjoyed the first arc of it. But this Punisher arc has been less than exciting for me. I don't know. It's just not working for me. But, and here's like the great thing. Like, this is the cover to the spoiler. This is the cover to the next issue. And that looks like a blast. Like, that looks stupid fun. Look at how cool that cover is. That's a cool cover. It's Claremont written Gambit. I'm into it. It's set in the 90s. It's got pretty decent art. I liked the first issue. And he's not a weird demon dragon guy. So I'm all about that. Tomb of Apocalypse. It was funny too, because when I looked at my pull list, I was like, man, if I were to cut Godzilla and Sorcerer Supreme, it would be all X-Men books except for one. There are a lot of X-Men books that came out this week, and there are a lot of X-Men books that, Tomb of Apocalypse. I've got high hopes. Anything's better than the end of Krakoa when they all of a sudden, like, I wasn't a fan of making him like a good guy on Krakoa, and then I certainly wasn't a fan of the about face they did where they made him a villain again, and then I certainly wasn't into turning Doug Ramsey into Apocalypse. In the history of dumb X-Men decisions, that is one of the dumbest. So I hope this course corrects some of that. That is why I bought in on this miniseries. Art looks good. Looks like it's Wolverine and Jubilee going after Apocalypse. That's a fun team up. I can read that all day. And I just looked at the last page. And I'm even more excited to read that now. What if they made a what if about Sean's least favorite time period in X-Men history? That's right. Your guy is not a fan of Grant Morrison era New X-Men, but that is for a personal reason. I gotta stress this every time because there's always somebody in the comment section that's like, whoa, what? You didn't like Grant Morrison's New X-Men? I didn't like Grant Morrison's New X-Men because it came out at a time period where my life exploded and my mother died and everything in my life changed. And so, of course, I was going to have a black cloud falling around me. That's a tough time period for me for movies. That's a tough time period for me for music. I mean, it was just a few years ago that I started to finally be able to like listen to records that came out around that time period without me immediately being hearkened back to like the worst time ever. One of the first tunes that ever pulled me out of the funk was I was like sitting on my front porch when I was moving in with the fellas from Sponge right after my mom died, to go on the road with them and just get away from it all. And I played Let Down by Radiohead off of OK Computer, and it was like the first time that song ever hit me. And it's a song that I sort of like don't listen to a lot. There's like a few songs that I have where I'm like, the song, like for instance, I think that Peter Gabriel's Salisbury Hill is one of the most beautiful songs ever written. And it's like I instinctively only choose to listen to that song like occasionally. The Waterboys' Hole of the Moon. There's just certain stuff where I'm like, this is reserved for like moments that I absolutely need this tune, right? And so if you've watched The Bear, I wish that show had ended at the end of the first season because they threw that song at the end at a very, like, if you've seen the show, like, he looks up, sees the person, and I was like, my wife looked at me and she was like, you're a fucking mess, what is going on? And so then I had to explain, like, what that song, anyways. I'm sure Grant Morrison's New X-Men is great, but unfortunately it is just wrong time for me, man. That's all. It's a tale for another time. I don't know. I told you most of it anyways. Wolverine. This looks like a Wolverine through time thing. I don't know. But that's fun. Oh, Nightcrawler's in there, so that's a plus for me. X-Men Outback. Look at that Russell Dauterman corner. That's, you know what? That's the only corner box we have right now. That's what they took from us. That's why comics aren't as great as they were back in the day. No corner boxes. First two issues of this has been fun. I thought it was going to be one of those, like, we try to sandwich some story in between two issues. And this has actually been, like, each issue is a different story, them dealing with a different thing that could have just happened during the time period when they were in the Outback. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. This is great. And look at that cover. That is an awesome cover. And it's got a corner box. And it's got Colossus holding a sword. I had one of my buddies, because I said that I didn't dislike Jed McKay's X-Men as much. And he sent me a text after watching the episode where I said that. And he was like, you're being a little too nice to Jed McKay's X-Men. And that's true. I am. But I want to like it. And I was easy in the beginning because Stegman was on pencils and he's a pal. And I didn't want to dunk on the book. But these last few issues have been better than the stuff that was leading up to it. And I am excited for this DNX storyline because I hope it's the end of this beast. And it's tying in with the Fantastic Four, which is right now my favorite book on the stand. So that is what it is. Last but not least, the 999th issue of Amazing Spider-Man. How exciting is that? How cool is it that the next issue of Spider-Man is number 1000? That is awesome, and I have been enjoying this run more than most, certainly more than the Geeky Old Hog. I don't even think he's reading it, he's just buying it. And that is it. Those are the new books that I picked up. And while Hank was sitting there flipping through Amazing Spider-Man number 999 at the gaming tables, I took a quick peek through the the dollar bins because they got shuffled around after the sale. And I found these 3 issues of X-51, the Machine Man from the late 90s. And I have some of these, but then I was like, oh man, that's the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. And then there was a variant cover, so I was like, well, I'll buy those for $1. And then there was this cool one with the Vision on it, so I was like, well, I'll like, it's $1, I'll get that too. And this is slowly closing out that run, which is like, I don't really need it. And then while I was in there, I picked up Shadow Riders #3 because it was guest starring Cable. It's a Marvel UK thing. I talked to McGroovy and he said it was the best Marvel UK story ever. He didn't actually say that. I didn't ask him. But for a couple seconds right there while I was having my tea, he was like, that motherfucker, I never said that. He did not say that because I'm sure that is terrible. It is 90s Marvel UK, probably at its worst. So yeah, that was strictly because I was like, oh man, I'm an X-Men guy and Cable's on there, so I'll grab that and I will throw that in my Marvel UK bin. So those are the books that I picked up this week. It's one of those, like, there's probably going to be really good stuff, but this is definitely one of those weeks where, like, when I saw what was coming out, I was like, man, this isn't the best Wednesday. And that makes me sad. But it's sort of, I guess, it's probably my own fault. There's some stuff in there that I should probably get rid of some stuff. Oh, okay. Earlier, I was talking about how, like, we hit a couple days here where it got, like, fall-esque weather-wise. And like, the second that happens here, I'm immediately like, oh man, I want some apple cider and some spiced donuts. And I want the leaves to start falling. And I want to read Doctor Strange, Triumph and Torment. I did a video on that last year at that time period because it's one of my absolute favorite things to read when we do get into that time period of the year. But I am jazzed to read this. I'm like, I finally get to pull this out. I got this in that when I read the long lost cousin's letter in that old Avengers, and discovered that he was into comics too and had a bunch of them in the family barn, and I never knew that. And he had me, there's a whole video about it that you can search out, where I discovered this letter as I was reading an old Avengers comic from the 60s that turned out to be a cousin of mine through marriage. And I reached out to him and he was like, yeah, that's me. And he was like, I didn't know you were into comics. And I was like, I didn't know you were into comics, and then he was like, come on up. I still got them all in the house. And holy smokes, what a collection. And he had been getting rid of stuff over the years, lots of good stuff that was way out of my, we're talking like a solid Kirby run of Fantastic Four, tons of great stuff. And then I was sort of left with, and the leftovers in this were fantastic. That is, like, calling them leftovers is like a slap in the face to the books. I don't mean it like that. I just mean, like, there was some stuff in there that he was like, I helped him sell some of it online so that he'd get the premium for it. And then the rest, he basically was like, how about you take it down to where you're at? I go through the whole thing in one of the videos. Anyways, this was, he was basically like, you get me this much for whatever down here, like, I want this much for this. If you can get me more, that would be great. Whatever you want to take as your helper's fee is fine with me, as long as I get X amount. And so I was able to get him more than he wanted, and I was able to keep, it's Cornerbox Classics, a good chunk of my Iron Man, Captain America, Marvel 2-in-1, Marvel Team Up, Captain Marvel, stuff like that all came from there. And this Adventure into Fear, I was like, there was part of it that I got rid of But this Morbius stuff, I was like, oh man, I definitely want to give this a read. But I was like, I can't read this with the Christmas tree up or whenever I initially got it. And then I was like, maybe I'll read it in the summertime. And I was like, I can't read this. And so now I'm like, oh, we're getting so close to fall. And I am going to make a way through this. So this, I guess this is my question. I do the Wednesday thing where I talk about books, but I haven't really read the new ones. And so this video isn't short because none of mine ever are because I ramble. But I guess my question is, at the end, when I normally just ramble, if I were to be going through these, is it cool if I chat about stuff that, like, because the Cornerbox Classic thing I have been doing chronologically, and even that I wish I could speed up because it isn't right to do it at a year's pace. Before I get to, you know, it's going to be some of us, you know, it's going to take me a long time to get through all of that. And there's stuff that I get that came out before the time period that I'm in, and I don't want to sidetrack that any more that I have. So I was like, oh man, if I read these, would I be able to toss it on the end of the Wednesday thing? So you let me know, because I'm not adding an extra show. This is already too much time away from the family, as the little dude is upstairs right now enjoying some Paw Patrol. And I would like to be up there with him. So I'm going to end this. This is why I don't edit. This is why it's just because I can't take the time to do that. Yeah. So when I go through these Morbius, the Living Vampires, in the fall, should I set up the tripod next to my fire pit in the backyard? You can hear the crickets. I don't know if you can hear the crickets, but they're going nuts in the back. Do I need to set up the tripod at next to the fire pit and have a little fireside chat about classic issues of Morbius? Let me know. I know what McGroovy's gonna say. Speaking of which, Comic Book Community Awards. I got to admit, it's been cracking me up. I've been seeing everybody's videos, and they've been doing this really nice thing where they're like, oh man, it's so nice to be nominated. I think I'm gonna a couple people have like removed themselves from voting because they're like, it's pitting me against my pals and I don't want this to be a competition. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. This is a little bummer because I would, you know, yeah. Not me. Just kidding. Listen, I got to split my votes between a lot of people because I like lots of channels. I just thought that was funny. Like, I was like, oh, look at everybody doing the right thing where they're like, oh, I don't really feel right about this because I'm being pitted against my pals. And I was like, come on. This is all meant in good fun. A little competition never hurt anybody because it's not really a competition. We're all here to have fun and talk about the same stuff that we love. We're all pals. So, yeah. So, as long as like I said, you want to vote for the longest cosplay, you want to vote for McGroovy, you want to vote for anybody else, do it in the categories that I'm in. The T one, I better win. All right. That's it. I'll be back oh man, I'm super jazzed about this Cornerbox Classics. I'm probably not even going to read any of these new books. I'm going to dive right into the Cornerbox Classics because I'm super excited about what's coming this week. It's a good one. All right. I got to go. Let me know. You know, understand that I said the Comic Book Community Award thing in jest. Please don't take that seriously. I've seen a couple videos too where maybe they might have been leftovers from last year. It appears there might have been some made-up controversy. When isn't there in this lovely community? All right. Thanks for taking this ride with us. Bye.